So hi guys, this video is long overdue. I've gotten messages upon messages upon messages. When is the frontal ventilation tutorial coming out? It's finally out. It took me well over 3 months of filming this. Inconsistently, my tie add that. I do hope this video is as explanatory as I love my other videos to be. Please do leave a comment down in the comment section. Please also watch my ads. Thank you. This is a 13 and this is a 6. A 13 means from your ear to ear. Then the 6 is usually the parting. This 13/6 has a deeper parting. That's why I chose to ventilate a 13/6. This curved side is the back, while this is the front. It's already a pre-cut lace, so this is not 13/6 because they've put allowance. So what I want to do is I want to show the allowance. I want to measure where the frontal is to be ventilated, where the allowance is, just basically all that. So let's go. If you don't know anything about allowances are usually given when the lace is not prepped. The allowance is usually a space that is given so you can fold your lace and prep your lace properly. So guys, I just paused here to come and show you what I actually mean by prepping of the lace. If you notice, this lace was not folded in the previous videos. Go and check it out. But now, can you see that I'm gradually folding it? Sometimes I don't prep my lace. That's when I'm doing my closures, my personal closures. I most times don't prep my lace. But since it's a frontal, it was a HD frontal, there was no way I was not going to prep that lace. So when you're making the closure, you leave 0.5, 0.5 and 1 inch in front. This one you're leaving 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, then 1.5 inch. So let's do that. Let's see whether who cut it really left that amount of allowance you get. But unfortunately for me, what the person that cut the frontal gave as an allowance was not what I would normally give as an allowance. Unfortunately, whoever cut this lace did not leave that much allowance for me. Because like I said, this is a pre-cut lace. If I'm the one cutting it, I'm going to leave 1 inch allowance all around and 1.5 inch in front. But this person left 0.5 inch for me because the width is... When I'm measuring the width now, for me to get this measurement, the extra inch allowance at the 2 sides are supposed to be 1 inch allowance at the left, 1 inch allowance at the right. So the total of that length now is supposed to be 13 plus the 1 inch, 1 inch. That's 15. That's how I got the 15. But this person left the 13 plus ½ inch plus ½ inch. That is 14. Do you get? Then for the length, it's pretty much the same thing. If I've not corrected it at this point, I corrected it the back inch. The person left 0.5 inch instead of 1 inch. So I'm going to add the 1 inch the person left at the front, the 6 inches of the frontal itself, the 0.5 inch at the back, and that total will now be 7.5. Yeah, 7.5 inches. It's 13, so the width is 13 plus 1 inch, 1 inch is supposed to be 15 inches, but the width is 14. It's not even a complete 14, but it's a 14, meaning it's just half an inch allowance I have at the 2 sides. Then this is by 6, so by 6 is supposed to be 1.5 inch in front and 1 inch at the back. That's 2.5 inch. So it's supposed to be 6 plus 2.5 inches. That's 8.5, but they left 8 inches. I can do 1 inch in front, 0.5 inch. Then I had to do a whole lot of management, especially when it came to the prepping of the lace. The folding here is small because I would have left a 1 inch allowance if I was the one that did the cutting of the lace. But because I wasn't the one that did the cutting of the lace, I had to work with a ½ inch allowance that they left, which was quite sad. But can you see the difference between what is not prepped and what is prepped? So with this now, I'll do 1 inch at the back and at the front. This is 1 inch here like this. Then I'll take it from here to here, then mark this 1 inch here. So whatever I'm doing it within this space here. Then I told the 0.5 that is here, so let me mark that 0.5 here. And mind you, this 0.5 extends to this turning here. So hi guys, I came back here to correct something. As I was marking the frontal, I thought I could do 1 inch at the back, 0.5 inches at all the sides, then 1 inch in front. But later on, I realized that could not work. So what I ended up doing was I left 0.5 inches all around. That means 0.5 inch at the 2 sides, at the slant side, at the back, and I left 1 inch in front. The reason why it could not work is because of the transitioning.
You know, the sides was 0.5 inch. So to transition from a 0.5 inch to a 1 inch, the line wasn't as slant as I wanted it to be. I don't know if you get, but the line wasn't as slant as I wanted it to be. So what I ended up doing was I just left a 0.5 inch allowance round and a 1 inch allowance in front. So that's what I wanted to correct. You know, normally I told you it was supposed to be 1 inch allowance all round. So the all round was supposed to be equal, then 1.5 inch allowance in front. So when you're measuring, do your 0.5 inch allowance all round. If you're managing your lace, or you do your 1 inch allowance all round, then do 1.5 inch in front. So the back and the two sides, they are supposed to have equal measurements. Don't make one bigger than the other. If not, you'll have a problem with it the way I did.
Another thing I want you guys to notice that there's no one exact measurement that you should use that is compulsory that you should use as a frontal. Genuinely, this 13 that people use as your ear-to-ear measurement, a lot of people's head sizes are not 13. To start with, my head size is not 13. No matter how big my head is, and mind you, my head is bigger than the average Nigerian's head, or the average person's head, if I do say so, and my head size is not 13. My ear-to-ear is 12 and a half. It's almost a 13, but it's not a 13. Then you that has a smaller head, your head size can go as low as 11. So why are you wasting your hair and wasting your lace to be ventilating ear to ear of 13? Then they will not, and that's why most times when a frontal stylist is installing a hair, if you've noticed, they'll mostly put it here, then they'll trim the rest of it. The trimming is obviously because it's not your head size, it's too big. So I'm not telling you to make it your exact head size measurement, but it must not be 13. If your head is way bigger, and you just use a tape, a measuring tape, I'm not with the tape here, but just use a measuring tape and put it exactly where the frontal is stopped. That's your ear to your ear, and just measure it. Your head can be bigger than that 13, your head can be 14, and that's why you see that most frontals you buy pre-cut, a pre-ventilated frontal that you buy, it doesn't fit your ear to ear. Also, if your head size can be way smaller than that, that's why you find out that most ventilated frontals that you buy, you have to cut a great deal of it before it fits your head size. What I'm trying to preach is measure your ear to ear before you ventilate the frontal. You might find out that your ear to ear is 11, and then maybe you just want to ventilate 12 by 6. Do you understand? Don't know who brought out this whole 13 is the standard measurement of a frontal, because there's nothing like a standard measurement of something. You can customize it, do what works for you. That's what I came here to preach. So it's still 0.5 here, like this, then you mark 0.5 here, so it's 0.5 like this. You measure again, it's 0.5 like this and like this. Do you understand? It's not really marking on the net, it's marking on the curtain. I can easily know my markings, but I want you guys to know it. So it's 0.5, 0.5 on a normal. If not me they cut my lace, I would have left 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch and 1.5 inch, but since I'm not the one, this is a pre-cut lace, they left 0.5, 0.5, 1 inch, 1 inch, and that's exactly what I'm going to work with. Been marked mainly on the curtain, but can you see? So because this lace is this big, it does not mean this is the whole space I'm working with. Let me use this paper and design what I want and what I'm talking about. This is a 13 by 6. It's like this, then it goes like this. It goes like this. This is how it goes mainly. For this side, let's just leave the allowance aside. Let's just say this is the main area. This is the area we are working with minus the allowance and everything. And this is the area we are working with now. Away. This is the area we are working with. This is the back and this is the front. When ventilating the frontal, you divide your frontal into 5 parts. The first 4 parts are the parts where you divide your frontal for your frontals vertically into 4 different parts. Like you just draw 4 equal parts in your frontal. Then the 5th part is your hairline area. So what happens is you measure this. Whatever this gives, you divide it into 4 parts. What did I say? Whatever it gives, you divide it into 4 parts. So this is giving 11 now. So this will be 11 divided into 4.
So guys, I also came here to correct something. This 11 that I'm working with is not the measurement of the frontal that I'm doing. I just used that 11 because it's what the measurement of the paper was saying. Do you understand? like I said, there's no one standard measurement, but let's just work with the normal 13. If you're using 13, now you divide your 13 into 4 parts. Don't take cognizance of this 11 and do it hook, line, and sinker like that. I was just working with exactly what the measurement of the paper was given, so you guys will understand better. So now, since you're doing 13, now you divide your 13 into 4 parts. Then you continue with that. Do you get?
11 divided into 4 is 2.75. Mind you, this is just because it's paper. At the latest, it's 13 that you get here, not 11. No. 11 divided into 4 is 2.75. So you mark 2.75. You mark again 2.75. You assume the last side is 2.75. If you marked and measured everything correctly, it's correct, 2.75. So this is divided into 4 now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what you do now is now draw the lines to the very end. Do you understand? So you draw the line to the end, wherever it's stopping. This is divided into 4. This is the frontal pattern. Assume this is your frontal. This is divided into 4. The hairline area is the part you ventilate last. You have to figure out the body of the closure, the frontal, and you're sure of the body of the frontal before you then go to the hairline to ventilate. What you're going to do is mark out 1.2 inches. Some people use more than that, some people use less than that. But me personally, for this one, I'm using 1.2 inch. So you're marking out 1.2 inch here. Can you see 1.2 inch here? And mark out 1.2 inch here. Then basically draw it to the end.
So I went offline to mark the what do I call it, the spacing for the hairline and stuff. Not because I will not show you guys eventually, but because I felt like that is not what is needed at this point. Now we are focusing on the body. So when it comes to the hairline area, then I will bring back this marking of the hairline area, how many strands and everything, so you understand better. But for now, let's just focus on the body, as that's what we are currently doing.
It's basically how to ventilate the frontal. So now, the pattern you're going to use for here is different from the pattern you're going to use for here. For here, it's different from the pattern you're going to use for here. But just have it in mind that those lines you see at frontals, those lines, these are the lines. So this is the center pattern, exactly the center pattern. These are going to be the side patterns that you see on frontals. This is going to be the side pattern. So what will now happen is the pattern you're using for here is one line spacing on both sides. That's the same thing you use for here. One line spacing on both sides. Then this center pattern is your regular diagonal pattern. A frontal is basically a 6x6 closure and extra. Does that make any sense? A frontal is a closure, like the middle of a frontal is a closure. Then there's just an extra side and extra side. You know, I told you you're dividing the back into 4 vertical lines. Do you understand? So the middle, the 2 vertical lines in the middle, you ventilate the closure there. Like you ventilate it, you use the exact same diagonal pattern. Then when you get to the front, you close it. The exact same way you ventilate the closure. That's the exact same way you ventilate these 2 middle sides of a frontal. The exact same diagonal pattern. The only difference is the fact that a frontal does not have a
Some
base.
people do ventilate their frontals with a base, but I just think there's no use for putting a base in a frontal, simply because you know the frontal, they are all direction, the strands of the frontal heads are all direction to the back. So it's already doing the work of the base by covering the back side of the hair. So I genuinely don't think a frontal needs a base, but if you want to do a base, you can do it.
So you just keep the base part. After you do that whole shape of a frontal, you just ventilate it around to give it that shape. Just go to the middle and start ventilating your diagonal pattern the exact same way. Sure, if you ventilated a closure before, you understand what I'm saying, but the exact same way you ventilate your diagonal pattern is the exact same way you're ventilating this middle side of the closure. It's the regular middle of closure that you do. So it's normal diagonal. Do you understand? If you've not watched my closure ventilation, before you learn frontal, you have to learn closure, because closure explains half of what frontal entails. Do you get? So now here is diagonal, here is diagonal. So you just do this center, do a normal center and close it here. You do this one line spacing on both sides, close it here. One line spacing on both sides, close it here. I'll teach you the one line spacing on both sides later when I get here. because I'm going to start ventilating from the middle of the frontal. I'll first ventilate this middle, finish the middle before I do this both sides. But first of all, I have to ventilate around and get the shape. And mind you, every hair you're ventilating on the frontal goes to the back. What did I say? Every hair you're ventilating on the frontal, it goes to the back. So it's not, when you are doing this type of closure, it's not like all those diagonal that you're going to the side and going to the side. But you're still doing normal diagonal pattern, but everything, the hair direction is directioning towards the back. If you've not watched video on directioning, please, I will link the video down here. You can go and check that out. But any hair you're directioning here, you're directioning it towards the back. So let's start ventilating, shall we?
So guys, there are different hurdles you will encounter when it comes to this frontal ventilation, but another major hurdle you will encounter is placing your frontal net on your mannequin head. See, if you ventilated a closure before, you will realize the fact that closures are usually way smaller than frontals. So placing closures on mannequin heads are usually not that hard. It's just a straightforward thing. But placing frontals on mannequin heads, you understand the fact that not everything can enter the mannequin head at once. Only literally half of the frontal can enter the mannequin head at once. So you have to find a system that works for you in a way that you can place half the frontal on the mannequin head. Once you're done ventilating that part, you unpin it, shift it, and repeat the whole process again. You can either do that or you do what they call darting. I will teach you how to dart frontal when we actually start ventilating the frontal, because as at now, what I was just trying to do was I was trying to place the frontal so I can get the borders ventilated lines, those border lines that gives it the frontal shape. I was trying to get that ventilated, but when it comes to the actual ventilation of the frontal, I'll now show you how I properly placed it for me to achieve an easy and seamless ventilation.
I see. From here, pin and pin. The way you're dragging your Swiss lace, don't drag your HD lace like that. Just make sure it enters the sellotape, and that's pretty much it. Do not drag. If not, it will rip so badly you will not know what to do. Like I said, I'm doing just the front now. So if I say front, the border iron. So let's just pin that. You just have to pin it firmly because it will frustrate your life if it's not well pinned. So I'm just going to pin this place small. Just fold them and pin them a little, which is something I was trying to avoid, but I just have to.
Can you guys see what I explained here? Pinning of frontal is like pinning a closure. But like I said, I pinned just one side of the frontal. That's, I think I pinned the left side of the frontal, then the right side of the frontal. I just bulk folded it and just pinned everything at once. The reason why I did that is just so it doesn't move while I'm ventilating, so it remains firm. So now that I've bulk folded and pinned that side, I'm ensuring that the thing is not coming up. Once I'm done, I'm going to ventilate this side that I've pinned. When I'm done with that, then I will just unfold the part I pinned down, shift it, and ventilate the other side. Do you get the placement of the frontal lace now?
This feels better now, but it's still lifting. I need to still properly pin this thing. How I have attempted to place the lace, can you see? This is the curved side of one side. These are the curved side, then the upside is in front, just for me to get the pattern. So once I get the pattern, I will shift this side, then put only the middle side I divided, then ventilate that side properly before I shift and I shift. Do you understand? Another thing I want you guys to note when ventilating the frontal is the length of the parting of your hair when you're measuring it. Don't go and measure what hair is telling you to confirm if it's really a 6. You will not get whether it's a 6. There's a curve here like I earlier stated. So if you measure here, it's not up to 6 yet. You know it's 13 by 6. This is not up to a 6 yet. The lines there are curved, so what is here is going to be smaller. It becomes a 6 at the middle where the curve has finished. Do you understand? So pending where that curve is, it's not up to a 6. If you want to know the frontal pattern, measure the exact pattern. Don't go and measure the sides and the sides. Guys, so I've done the outline of this. Now is what's happening here.
So guys, there's a mistake here. I don't know if people can spot the mistake. At the bottom, the first side, which is supposed to be the first one line spacing on both sides, is where the curve is supposed to start and stop. The straight line is supposed to be for both the one line spacing is for the two diagonals. Then the second curve is for the second one line spacing on both sides. I'm going to use like a diagram here to explain it, but that was a mistake I made when I was ventilating, and I figured that out late, but I was able to correct it. So don't just be like me and make that mistake. But I was able to correct it simply because it's just the back of the hair. It really does not matter yet. So the next thing I want to do now is this diagonal now is to ventilate this side, and this is a normal closure pattern. This is that straight line pattern, then from there you start the diagonal. Do you understand something here? This is the normal pattern for this side. That is what you're doing here. So I want to start that out. So instead of saying normal closure pattern, I decided to come here and show you guys what I actually mean by the normal closure pattern. This box I am drawing now, take it as the middle of the frontal. That's the two diagonal sides. If it's a normal closure, you know that it's supposed to be a slant line at the base side, simply because that is how the back of the closure is supposed to be shaped. But this one now, there's no slant line at the back. Can you guys see that it's a straight line at the back? Then the slant line is for the one line spacing on both sides. So can you see how my diagonal is to be ventilated? It's just be ventilated like that. There's no base or anything. I'm just moving straight to the diagonal. So unlike a closure that will have base, frontals do not have base. So you just move from the diagonal and just start ventilating your one line spacing. You know, this diagonal pattern normally is one line spacing. So this is where you just start your main diagonal pattern. Don't think of base. Don't think of the fact that it does not have a slant line the way normal closures will have a slant line.
I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. This video is not a beginner friendly video. If you've not ventilated a closure before and you want to go straight to a frontal, you're going to have a lot of issues, especially with what I'm going to be explaining, because I'm going to be explaining based on closure ventilation. A lot of the patterns you're using in ventilating a frontal are the same patterns you used in ventilating a closure. So I'm not about going to start explaining how a diagonal pattern is supposed to be again. I assume you know it. And if you don't know what a diagonal pattern is,
this is a closure that I ventilated before. Can you see what I mean by the diagonal pattern, which is a normal one line spacing? Mind you, one line spacing is different from one line spacing on both sides. That one line spacing on both sides, leave that one, I'll teach you first. But this diagonal pattern, you're using your regular schmegular one line spacing.
I'm going to link my closure ventilation video. Go and watch the closure ventilation video exactly as it is. Then come back to this video, then you will understand what I'm saying. I think I'll link the video somewhere here. I see we just finished the first HD frontal.
So I'm going to be uploading the part 2 of this video by this week. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Bye bye.